I appreciate this is not the most aesthetically pleasing background for you guys to look at, but I am home from uni for a week and I want to film my Land of Nod video. It's already been too long. It's long overdue being filmed. And I forgot my tripod again. So I'm improvising. If you want to film videos, remember your tripod. I've made that mistake twice too many. Also, if I sound like I'm ill and underwater, it's because hay fever is a lot worse in Basingstoke than it is in London. I thought I knew immersive theatre because after seeing Neverland and Gatsby and For King and Country, I was like, yeah, I think I understand what immersive theatre is now. I understand it. I thought I knew what it was. Then I went to go see Land of Nod. I was wrong. I don't know what immersive theatre is. Everything's just gone out the window. I'm learning immersive theatre for the first time all over again. I am going to try my hardest to keep this video spoiler free. The show has ended, but I'm in the belief that it will come back. This is not the end, so I'm gonna try and keep this video as spoiler free as possible. Now, the show is a murder mystery essentially. It is in Croydon, and there has been a stabbing where someone has died, and it's up to you as the audience members who are the press to try and ask some characters some questions to try and find out the truth of what happened or why it happened, or any information you can really get hold of to help the case a bit more. I'm not going to lie, I was bricking it the first show. I've been twice, back-to-back shows. I went on the first day, went straight back the next day. I was bricking it because I don't have the best sense of direction, and so when I got to the show on the first day and they were like, yeah, you're just gonna go wander around Croydon, find some characters, I was kind of like, I don't know Croydon at all. I'm going to get absolutely lost. Luckily, the vicinity of the area where the show is quite concise, so even I can handle it. So if I can handle it, anyone can. The way it's done is very clever but also kind of daunting, where you're left to your own devices. They'll give you a police briefing where you're given basic facts about the case. You can stay behind at the end and ask for more if you want to, and then you're shown the crime scene, and then it's up to you. You're given key locations which you can go to if you want to. If you wanted to, you could just wander around Croydon for the whole 2 hours and do what you wanted, but then that would be wasting your money, so don't do that. That's stupid. But you could do that if you wanted to. There's no one there saying like, go here, go there, do this, do that. It's all your own choices of what you do and who you speak to and blah 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 blah. I think that this might be one of the cleverest immersive shows I've ever done, because I can't even begin to fathom the amount of research and work and effort that must have gone into the show to make it happen. So there are 10 characters, which is a little bit more than the other immersive shows I've been to. I think Gatsby and Neverland have 8. I really hope that's right. I've just really embarrassed myself if that's wrong. And I think King and Country has 7. I really hope that's right. I'm going to be so ashamed if that's wrong. But this is the first time I've heard of an immersive show having 10 characters. And I'm going to read out the cast names and their characters because I think they all need so much credit for the amount of work that's gone into it. When I'm reading them out, I'm going to try and avoid saying too much about the characters, because if it does come back and you do go do the show, then you'll know who they are and then I'll kind of spoil the whole thing. So I'll just kind of say who they are. If I say your name wrong, I'm really sorry. I'm so useless. So the role of Kane is played by AJ McGillivray. Becca is played by Ellie Dolk. Harriet is played by Ellie Russo. Leo Banks is played by Lloyd McDonough. Homeless Man, that's literally his name. His name is literally Homeless Man. Is played by Sandy Murray. Lilith is played by Davinia Hamilton. DCI Waterman is played by Angus Woodward. Peterson is played by Chris Scanlon, and D.S. Kent is played by Owen Kingston. D.C. McLaren is played by Jason Bowler. If I said that really fast, I'm very sorry. I'm conscious I do talk fast. The reason I wanted to list all of those characters, I didn't do it for King Country and Gatsby because I'm just useless. They all have to put in 110% worth of effort to make the show work. Depending on how many people go to the show every night, each character will have at least one person with them. So they've all got these elaborate backstories for every character, and they've all got some sort of a relation to the person who's died, and the improvisation is ridiculous. Because it's based off the press asking questions, they have to have a response to whatever we ask them essentially. And from the 2 shows that I went to, they really do think on the fly so quickly, and if I didn't know it was improvised, I would think it was scripted. They are that good. And I don't really think it's one person kind of holding the show and the other are kind of side characters like a normal stand-up show. They are all so important and pivotal to the show and how it carries out and the way that the show plays out. So every single person is crucial, and you can see from the way that the show pans out, depending on who you interact with, you can still see how every single character has brought something to the show and made it all run really smoothly, and how they've made it all work. And like, there's not one person putting in more work than the others. They all put in a huge amount of work every night. So I went to 2 shows. I went to the first show and I was literally like, that was insane. And then they tweeted saying, we're sold out for the rest of the run. That is amazing. I'm so happy they sold out, but at the same time, I wanted to go see it again and again and again. can see the theme here, because every show you'll only see about 20%. Because there's 10 characters, you will only spend time with maybe 1 or 2 of them per show because of how the show works out. I saw 4 characters across the 2 shows that I saw, which I'm incredibly thankful for because I thought I was only going to see like 1 per show. Seeing the first show, I then went to the second show. It was like 2 completely different shows altogether. Depending on who you see, you get different perspectives on the person who has died, the people involved with the crime, suspects, how that evening played out for them. Like, it's almost like you're hearing 2 completely different stories, even though they are related, if that makes sense. One thing that I thought was really cool, you can spend your evening with 1 or 2 of the 10 characters, and that's basically who you'll be with the entire time. You'll basically just follow them, and it's a really clever way to kind of get the audience engaged and to explore Croydon through another lens, essentially. What Owen said to me, who is the director, producer, top dog person, is that you kind of look at Croydon as an 11th character and you kind of see it through a different lens, and you kind of look at everything around you and everyone around you trying to guess if they're part of the show or if they're just living in Croydon. Because one thing that is very cool and also a little bit daunting is you don't know who the characters are. You don't know who the cast members are. You don't know anything. You're given a few headshots of some people that aren't the whole cast at all. You're given like 4 photos of people, I think, and there is like 6 other people who are also involved with the show. And so you kind of have to guess who's in the show. So you could speak to a random person on the street. They could be like, I don't know who you are or what you're talking about. Or you could speak to someone who is involved with it. So it's kind of touch and go whether you get a character or just a random stranger off the street. For this, they did introduce a safe phrase, which is kind of meant to be used in like situations where you feel unsafe. And then if you say this phrase, you're given an answer back, which confirms that either in the cast or they're not. I had to use this once on the first show. I was told to meet someone at a fountain in a garden. So I was like, okay, yeah, we'll go do that. It was all part of the show, so it was all perfectly safe. So I went to the place and I sat down, I waited, and this woman comes up to me and sits next to me. The park is quite empty at this point. She had the whole place to sit in, so she came and sat next to me. So I was like, okay, I'm guessing it's you. So I'm chatting away to her and she's chatting back, and it's a nice interaction. It's a bit useless considering the plot, like I'm not really getting anywhere with my questions, but that's fine, we'll let it slide. And she goes, anyway, it was nice to meet you, and she gets up and walks off. I'm like, that was the most useless interaction out of the whole show I've ever had. I didn't learn anything from that. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll get up and leave. So I get up to go walk off, and I get a message from the person I'm meant to be meeting saying, please wait for me. And I'm there like, that was not the person I just spoke to. That was just a random person on the street. That is not who I was meant to be meeting. That's grand. That's why it was so useless. So I'm sat down waiting some more, and another woman walks past me. So I use the safe phrase, and she doesn't even say anything back in response to it, which makes sense in terms of her character. It's a very complex character, a very clever character, so it makes sense for her not to say anything back. So I sit down next to her and I'm like, please tell me you're part of the cast because I'm not doing this again. I didn't say that, I was thinking it, but I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not having a random conversation twice in one night. And it turns out she was part of the cast. But I just found it really funny how I just assumed someone was in the cast, in the show, and I was chatting away to her, and it wasn't her at all. That's kind of a thing you have to be aware of when you're in the show, that you could just start speaking to random people. Another thing that's quite cool is that no matter who you speak to and whereabouts in Croydon you are throughout the majority of the evening, you will end up at exactly the same place with everyone at the end of the evening, and everything all ties together in a really clever way. So no matter which characters you followed, what stories you heard, what perspectives you heard, at the end you're all in the same place and you see the same scene unfold right at the end, and everything all slots together in a really clever manner. So you're never really going to miss out at all. Like, no matter who you follow, it's really interesting. So there's no one character that's more interesting than the others. There's no one that has more action than the others. No matter what you do, you will have an amazing time. One thing that I found was really cool is that the show is technically 2 hours long, so it's from 7:30 till 9:30. And I thought that was going to drag. 2 hours wandering around Croydon in a very small vicinity with 10 characters. How is that going to work? Did not drag at all. If anything, it flew by. They've managed to fit in so much content for each character to use within that short amount of time that you see and do so much in such a short amount of time that you look at your watch and it's 7:30, you look at it 2 seconds later, it's nearly done. It's phenomenal. One thing that I found that worked really well with this is that because it is so immersive, the characters don't really do all that much at the start. You go and find the characters, you start the conversations, you ask the questions, and as a consequence of that, I found myself forgetting that I'd paid to go and see a show. I genuinely tricked myself into thinking this was a real life situation that had happened. And following on from that, what I was saying about the research and the effort and the work that's gone into this show, I know I'm sat here beaming and praising the show as much as I can because it is amazing and it deserves all the praise. but it is based off real issues, especially in today's society, such as like gang culture and drug use and knife crime. I think it's good they've taken such a hard-hitting issue that's so relevant and turned it into such a beautiful, wonderful piece of theatre. Like, this is a really good thing to use to get people to see the effects that these things can have. They were saying at the end of the shows how they could use this in schools, and I absolutely can see why they would use it in schools. It is a perfect way to get the message across, I think. I just want to say this, I'm not paid to make any of these videos, I'm not asked to make any of these videos. Everything I say is because I genuinely want to say it. I don't do it for the attention, I don't do it for money, I don't do it for praise, I don't do it for any of that. Everything I say is genuinely my own opinions, and I genuinely like talking about the stuff that I say. So if I'm sat here making a video about Land of Nod, it's because I want to. If I make a video about Gatsby, it's because I want to. No one has asked me to. I want to make that quite clear. So I asked Owen if there was anything he wanted me to include in the video, if he had any burning desires or whatever, and he said no, it's fine. He left it completely up to me. But one thing I do want to mention is a charity, and I think that they mentioned that they work kind of in conjunction, this charity and the show together, to make it as real as possible. And that charity is Meant For, I think I said that right, and that's basically mentorship to try and bring people out of gang culture and drugs and knife crime and stuff like that. And throughout the show I could notice how much work and research had gone into it, depending on how the characters were acting, the stuff they were saying, the way that the story was panning out. I could notice all the work and research, and I hate to think how long it must have taken for them to rehearse it and everything. Like, they've put in so much time and effort into this. It's really paid off, and I think the work with the charity also made it that much better because it's made it feel a lot more real. Like I was saying, how I kind of forgot I was in the show. And so even if you can just check out their website, I'm sure it would mean a lot to them, I'm sure it would mean a lot to me, I'm sure it would mean a lot to the people who made the show. It's just a really good charity, and I think that they would benefit highly from people knowing more about them. One thing that I have found that the show really opened my eyes to, and I knew this already, but I know I'm quite privileged. I know that. I can go to uni, I can afford to do that. I live in London, one of the best cities in the world. I don't have issues with drugs, I don't take drugs, I never have taken drugs. I am not involved with knife crime, I never have been, I hopefully never will be. And I'm definitely not part of a gang culture. And I know that I'm very lucky for that to have happened to me. There's many reasons why people would end up with lives such as those demonstrated in the show. But the show proves to me that I'm very lucky that I've not been involved with any drugs or knives or gangs or whatever, but it also showed to me that there are people who aren't that lucky. And after the show I find I kind of look at people who are involved with things like that and my heart goes out to them because they're less lucky than I have been. Which is where the charity Meant For is so important and so helpful. And so that's just something I wanted to mention. I don't know how much I can say, so I'm going to verge on the side of safety and not say a lot, but I'm so grateful that after the first show I was lucky enough to be given the chance to go back the next day. As soon as the show finished I was like, I had to go back, and I went back and it was great, and now I do want to go back like another 100 times. I am under the firm belief that this is not the end for either the cast or the show. The cast are ridiculously talented. Oh my goodness, how they pulled that show together and made it work as well as it did, I will never know. I am in awe of them. That's freaking cool, and if it does come back, I urge you to go and see it, please. I thought, is it really worth the trek from Elephant to Croydon? It was so worth the trek. I was like, what did I just take part in? What did I just do? Because it was that phenomenal. It was truly worth it. At the end of the show, they must be shattered, especially a show as intense as that. But they were so happy to stop and talk to me, and I was very grateful. And that's just reminded me, I'm so mad. At the end of the second show, Jason, who is the tech man and also one of the police folk, he said to me that he would help me make this video. And I forgot to speak to him about that before I left. This is why I'm making it and it looks so crap when I'm sat here filming. I should have taken his advice. I wanted to take his advice, but I forgot. I just really like this show. I think it's very clever and it's very important, and it's a really good way to tackle hard-hitting issues, especially for young people. And I think it's a really good way to get people talking about these issues and thinking about them. I think this show is so important and it just needs to be talked about. So I'm happy to do that. I will talk about it forever. Also, the link for the Meant For website will be in the description below. I'm pretty sure I've forgotten 1,000,001 things I wanted to say. So as I'm doing a Gatsby part 2 and a King Country part 2, that's coming very soon, as I'm doing their part 2 videos, I might as well do a Land of Nod part 2 if I think of anything else. I hope this made some sort of sense. If it didn't, I'm very sorry, you should be used to it by now, it is me. If it did make sense, that's great, that's made me very happy. Thank you for watching, and bye! I don't know how to use words. I don't know how to speak like a human being.